Hey, it's Sandra. Welcome to another episode of Asexualise, my asexual life, where I show my own asexual life journey in order to help you in yours. If you haven't already subscribed, subscribe and hit the bell icon right now. I share advice about love, life, dating, relationships for asexuals. And if you don't know who I am Sandra Bellamy, author of this awesome Asexual Perspectives book, which is out on Amazon. So grab your copy now. And also Fibromyalgia Self-Help Handbook. So, yes, have you ever felt anxious, nervous, stressed? And have you ever felt like a snail where you're touching your tentacles on the ground, on your surroundings, and it just feels really, really stingy? And you're like, I just really don't want to be here right now. I want to curl into my shell and wait for everything to calm down and just be nicely tucked warm inside my shell. Have you ever felt like that? Have you ever been so stressed that you get really dizzy and you get stomach pains and pelvis pains, all that sort of area? If you have, then I know how you feel because I'm going through those emotions at the moment and it is really hard. So on the 4th of December, we're on the 22nd of December now. On the 4th of December, I lost my beautiful angel guinea pig who was with me for nearly 6.5 years. She did live with my parents in the end, and I was there with her in my arms when she died. That was really difficult. I still obviously am grieving over that. It takes a long time, but I've had the added complication of I've got to find somewhere to live because my landlord's given me legal notice to move out by the 10th of February. Now that might seem a little way off as it's in December, but most people have to give a month's notice where they leave. So sometimes you can't move into a property till like a month later. I have found somewhere that I've put a deposit on now, which I'm really, really happy about. However, the place is very, very small, so I'm downsizing my content. So, as a person who suffers with anxiety, generalized anxiety disorder, I I'm wired to not like change, you know, in my kind of upbringing in life. Change is not something I usually like. Change I find really difficult, but over the years, I've made change happen for me rather than it happening to me, which has put me more in control. So if you do have anxiety, I'd highly recommend that you're the one who makes the changes in your life rather than someone else doing it for you. Obviously, in this case, I have no choice because I've got to move out because my landlord's decided that for me. And so this makes it more difficult. It makes the whole situation more stressful. It makes me feel more resistant to the change. And especially as I'm going to have to downsize a lot of my content, this means getting rid of a lot of my stuff in this current flat. And that's going to be hard because I've got a lot of stuff and I might have to get rid of 2/3 of it. And so this is a huge chunk of my life I'm gonna be getting rid of. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but for someone who doesn't totally like change and finds it difficult to have all this dumped on me is quite hard. I've always known though in my mind that I can't stay here forever because I don't own the place. And so I think one of the good things to do if you have anxiety to help you cope with situations is to think of possibilities of what might happen in the future. Now, I know some people might not agree with that because they're like, oh, the whole point, if you've got an anxiety problem, is to try not to think about the future, not to worry about it, and just put it out of your mind because otherwise it can spiral out of control. And to a certain extent, I agree with that. But then if you don't think about any possibilities of anything happening, when it does, it's even more of a shock. It was a shock, but I knew I couldn't stay here forever. But I thought if anything happened to the landlord, i.e., he died, then his son would automatically get it, and that wouldn't happen probably for another 30 years. So I'd be here for the majority of my life. Um, but the landlord is actually selling it to someone who's alive. And I'm glad the landlord's still alive, though, you know what I mean? But it's just like really tough when I've been here 18 years. And so, like I said, one of the ways I find it easier to cope in terms of anxiety with new experiences is if you can imagine, like, for a moment, if something was to happen, like, how would you cope with it? So you're already in your mind created some possibility or some feeling that it could happen just in case it does. So it's not as much of a shock as it could be. So I think that's quite a good thing to do. But at the moment, I'm trying to remain calm because today I was thinking about the place I'm going to get and I love it, but it's really super small. I was stressing and overwhelmed about the lack of space like in there. I mean, literally, it's basically got enough space for a bed, a few clothes, because the bedroom is like a walk-in wardrobe with a bed in it. So you literally are like with a bed with hanging rails and shelves around you in a loft, attic place with a sloping ceiling with a shower and toilet off it and a hand basin. And then downstairs, because it's a masonette, so it's 2 floors. As you go in, you've got the kitchen on the right-hand side with the breakfast bar and a couple of chairs. I've never had breakfast bar, so that's quite nice. But, it's got a sofa in there. Well, it just had a chair in there, not even a sofa actually. But there's a couple of shelves in there, but I've asked them if it's possible to remove the shelves because that's wasted space. I really need to get my office desk. I've either a current one or get some other storage to go there to maximize the space. And they said I can so long as I put the shelving back. So I'm trying to come up with solutions, and this is what I really recommend, that if you have anxiety, you're feeling really overwhelmed, especially if you're forced to move or you've got grief going on, I really highly recommend that you think of options and you stay solution focused. If you focus on the problem, it becomes more and more overwhelming. So if I focus on the fact that it's a really small space, I'm not really going to be able to fit much in there. It freaks me out. It makes me highly anxiety induced, makes me feel poorly, and does me no good whatsoever. Instead, if I focus on let's find some furniture that's tall and slim to maximize the space, to give me more storage in there, that makes me feel better because it makes me feel like I'm a designer, which I used to basically do that anyway, because I used to work in bedroom and home office furniture, like helping the customer to have a design for their room. I wasn't involved in the final design using CAD design, but I was involved in the creative side in the beginning process of imagining where new furniture could go in their room. And so I'm very good at being able to fit things in small spaces. It is a forte of mine. So I'm really hoping that when I go in there, I'm going to be able to look it up, measure, and I'm going to be able to fit some more storage in there, like slimline units or something. But it's really, you know, overwhelming if I think about it, and especially how much stuff I've got to get rid of here in a short space of time. So I think, in order to cope with anxiety when you're put in a difficult position, it's really important that you try to remain as calm as possible, because if you get into a panic state, it's not actually going to help you. It's not going to help you move. It's not going to make you be in a good frame of mind to do that. It's not going to help you actually achieve what you need to achieve in the time you need to achieve it. And it's just going to make you super poorly. So it's best to try and remain calm, slow down, take it easy. Think, by a certain date, this is all going to be over anyway. Because by the 10th of February, I've got to be out of here and in a new home. That's at the very, very latest, but it'll probably be before that. And so it won't be like this forever, and that's what you got to tell yourself. This is temporary. It won't be like this forever. You can get through this. You can overcome these challenges and obstacles, but also look at this as an opportunity. This is an opportunity for growth for me, because it means getting rid of a lot of the stuff from my past, which means I'm going to be forced to do things that I don't want to do, but it's going to grow me, because when you are changing yourself and changing your life, whether that is by force or of your own accord, which is much more better, ideally of your own accord, but sometimes forcing you has a bigger impact, and therefore you grow more. We only grow through change. We don't grow through staying the same. So to have change thrust upon us is really difficult and overwhelming and horrible at the time, but it can also be our greatest growth area, where we are able to actually excel more in life because we've had this kind of like crisis or challenge, if you like, handed down to us. And it's like, here, go and sort this out. I did in fact say, oh, to myself and to like the powers that be, that, oh, I'd love to like be more of my 21-year-old self and more of my teenager self. And this flat is precisely going to do that, because it's basically like a student pad. And as far as the letting agent knows, there's students in the other flats in the house, so it'll be like living in a student house, I think. The other flats, as far as I know, are managed by other letting agencies. At least one of them must be, because they had a notice in the hallway downstairs. And so, I think it's important to focus on the positive aspects of change. Like, when the result of the change happens, what's going to be good for me? It's going to be the fact that I live near the shops, and I live near the city centre. I'm going to live near the nightclubs. It's just going to be amazing from that point of view. Great location. It'll have everything I want on 2 floors. I've never had 2 floors before to myself. Um, and as you walk out the door and turn right, there's like a place called Stars Bars, which is kind of like an American diner and bar. It's only like 2 doors up, and then in front of that is student accommodation. So I will be around young people like I am young, So this is going to be amazing, because I'm going to be around like students in their 20s, which is what I love to do anyway. So you have to be careful what you ask the universe for. I kind of asked the universe, like, oh, I'd like to be more of my 21-year-old self and actually become younger in my mind and in my being. And that is achievable. And then having this thrust upon me, this change, and the flat I've chosen kind of like is going to fulfill that wish, I think, to be younger and to live a younger life even more. And kind of like, it's not exactly what I wanted, what I meant, but it's like, okay, universe, you've handed me this. I said I wanted something, and I'm gonna have it, but it's not exactly how I wanted it. But sometimes in life we don't get what we want how we want it. And when we ask the universe for something, I don't know if you believe in God, the universe, or whatever the powers that be, but when you ask for something, be careful what you ask for and wish for, because you might get it, but not how you wanted it. But it'll be really good, I'm sure, because like I said, I think, well, the letting agent thinks there's students in the rest of the house. So I will be among people that I love to be around. And I told her that I go clubbing anyway, because she said I can't promise it's going to be quiet, because I think it's got students in. I said, oh, I'll go out clubbing with like, and not like to timepiece and stuff. And my friend's like 21, I go clubbing with her as well. And she's like, oh, you'll be coming back with them then at like 4 in the morning. I'm like, yeah. She's like, oh, that's one of the worst things I can think of. And I'm like, oh, I really like it, because I like being young. So I said, you'll notice on my passport when I have to give it for proof that I'm a certain birth certificate age, but I'm nothing like that, because I'm like, I said, because I reprogrammed my mind using NLP years ago to be like 21. So she understood what I was talking about. She's like, well, good for you. So that was quite an interesting conversation. But the new place is really nice. But I've got to have reference checks yet. So that'll take a couple of weeks. So I won't know till about the beginning of January what's going on exactly with the flat I've seen, where I get it or not. I say flat, but it is a maisonette, 2 floors. So it's very cozy. It's got everything I want and need. But it's just that I could do with extra storage. I say want and need as in terms of it's got a washer dryer, it's got a fridge freezer, it's got space for my own bed, it's self-contained, it's got its own shower that works. And because I've looked at some places and they don't have a washer dryer, or they just have a washing machine and no dryer. And one place I went to didn't even have a proper shower, it just had a hose over the bath taps, and it wasn't even high up. It was like just above the bath taps. I would have had to crouch down all the time in the bath. And oh my lord, it's quite a lot of things wrong with flats. You'd be surprised. Um, so yeah, so I am looking forward to moving. I am looking forward to moving to a new place, but it literally means I've got to get rid of so much stuff, and the overwhelm that I feel with the amount of stuff I've got in this flat, which I've accumulated over 18 years. Well, I've actually got stuff that my parents gave me out their loft as well. So I've got stuff from when I was living with my parents, as well as the 18 years I've lived here. So yeah. So I've got a lot of stuff in my flat. And it's kind of like very overwhelming to think I've got to get rid of a lot of it. Like, I'm gonna have to be ruthless with like a lot of my cuddly toys are gonna have to go. Not the ones on my bed, but the majority of the other ones are, like, all the big ones. I'm gonna have to get rid of all the eels and stuff like that. It's like I just have to like blitz my place. And so it's gonna be really tough doing that. And I can't think about it for too long. And so that's what's kind of difficult because obviously Angel died and I couldn't really think about that so much. On the day it happened, I was really grieving and crying. I still feel like I've got grief now. I want to burst into tears sometimes. And I want to burst into tears from the amount of change that's going on at the moment because I'm finding it hard to cope in some ways, but then my logical side takes over. And I say to myself, it's okay. You've got this. You're going to be fine, Sandra. I'm going to look after you. It's no problem. You're going to get through this. You're going to be all right. It's going to be amazing. And so I think positive self-talk is a very big thing that you need to do and to coach yourself. So if you notice there, I've got me that's worried and panicked me thinking, what am I going to do? I'm really overwhelmed. I'm really stressed out. Help, help, help. Oh my gosh. Then I've got the like coaching adult nurturing side to me that's saying, hang on, you've got through things before, you're really intelligent, you very solution focused, you're very resourceful, Sandra. You can do this, you can get through this, you'll be fine. It'll all be over by the 10th of February for definite anyway, because you've got to be out of here by then and gone and done and dusted to a new place. So it's all going to happen quite quickly, but at least it's going to be like over the month, it's going to be like done, and so then you'll be settled for the new year then. But obviously it's going to be a lot of hard work to get to that stage. But I think positive self-talk is essential, and like I said, remain solution focused. Like if I focus and think I haven't got space for my stuff, I haven't got space for my stuff, I haven't got space for my stuff, it just freaks me out, and it's not helpful because it doesn't actually help me get more space. And then if I start to think logically, well, you're good with design, Sandra, good with fitting things in small places. You just need to try and find units as slim and tall so you can build upwards, so you can have some extra storage in there. But you're still gonna have to get rid of a lot of stuff. So, but I just have to be calm and collected as much as possible. So usually I'm very hyper and bubbly and energetic, and I love being that way. But I'm having to purposely calm myself down because the energy at the moment is like more of a panicky overwhelm than a healthy, like hyper fun excitement, you know what I mean? So, but also it's important as well to try and get excited about the change, which, try and look at it as an adventure, because I'm trying to do that. I'm not saying it's easy, but I think by trying to see it as an adventure, as a new thing in life, as something that's going to bring a different kind of like slant on life and help grow me as a person, I think this is going to be good. I think it's actually going to be very good for me to get rid of a lot of my stuff, because I've still got a lot of stuff from my ex, like cuddly toys and that, which I do love the cuddly toys, but I'm gonna have to let them go, a lot of them. And so I do think it's going to be quite healthy for me to be able to get rid of a lot of my stuff, to be quite ruthless, because then, it should help clear a lot of like negative past energies, help with the healing process. Most people in the world, if not all people in the world, have to have or should be having or should be doing or could be doing work to heal themselves from the past. Usually a lot of people are brought up in unhealthy ways, in terms of the way they're attached to their caregivers. And it just gets handed down from generation to generation. Thus, if you've got, for example, an anxious parent, that anxious parent can pass that anxiety on to the kids. If you've got an avoidant parent, you can end up that, the avoidant issues they've got can pass to the kids as well. And this can affect like your relationships, like life. I'm not saying everything's to do with your caregivers. You can pick up things yourself, like you can become an anxious person yourself by experiences you've had in your life, for example, and by trauma and things that have happened to you post leaving your caregivers, you know what I mean? So you might have had a really great childhood, then all of a sudden you end up with a succession of things going wrong in your life and bad relationships, and then that can cause huge anxiety and stuff. Anything to do with change that's happened in your life before that ended up not being good, then obviously it's going to make you more stressed out. But I did actually have a horrible dream like before I accepted the flat. I'm like, oh my god, but I think it was my anxiety trying to put me off but I really liked the place, and I still like the place. Just my anxiety overwhelmed me so much. I'm like, what am I doing? I shouldn't be moving there because I like, got a lack of storage. But then I'm like, you need to move there because it's the best place you've been to so far, and it will match your needs, and you will be like literally down the road from a Sainsbury's. You'll be in the heart of the city pretty much, or just down from there. But they call it the heart of the city. So you're basically in the city centre. And I can go to clubs and just walk home. I won't even have to pay for taxi anymore. But to move there is probably going to cost me an extra 350 to £400 a month. So it means that I'm not going to be able to go away as much to London, for example. It's a lot more money because I have all bills included here. There's no bills included there. So things are going to be a lot tighter in terms of money for me because I'm not going to be able to go out. I'll be able to go in the city centre more in terms of like I just on my doorstep, but I'm not going to be able to go to London and places like that very often because obviously I won't have the money. Because in the UK, I know there's an energy crisis, I think, all over the world at the moment, particularly in the UK. It's really extortionate. And I don't pay for energy bills at the moment, but I am going to be when I move. So, an extra like 350, £400 on top of what I'm already paying is going to be pretty horrendous and it'll take a lot of my money up. So I don't have much left. I'll just have money for food and maybe a little bit of like going to the cinema in my city or something or very local stuff. But I'm gonna have to like cut down stuff in terms of like not be able to go away as much to London and places like that. So that is gonna be tough. But I think everything happens for a reason. And one thing that gets me through tough times with anxiety is I do have the motto now of everything happens for a reason, whether it's good or it's bad. Everything is happening for me rather than to me, even though it seems like it's happening to me and it's awful. Things actually usually do happen for people. If you switch your mind, say instead of saying this is happening to me, why is it I don't actually usually say why is this happening to me, because that's a really bad negative thing to say and it's not helpful. What I think is, how is this helping me in my life? What experience am I gaining from this? Obviously, the experience I'm gaining is I have to make decisions quicker. I have to be able to get rid of a lot of things from my past, which is going to be hard for me because I've got quite attached to a lot of my stuff. And I'm going to be starting a new life, obviously. So, it is challenging. And with challenges comes rewards at the end of it. I am going to not be on the streets if I get this place, which hopefully I should do after the references come back, which is going to be amazing because obviously that is a danger. That I could genuinely end up on the streets with no home and no roof over my head and in all bad weathers because I would have nowhere else to go. So this is amazing that I found somewhere and which pretty much suits all my needs. All my needs. The only thing is, it's got a lack of storage space. That's the main issue. And if you want to go into a tiny issue, you got to put your rubbish out, I think, on in the streets when they collect it. And I have loads of rubbish, so I really need bins. But like if you're forced to move, you have to like kind of like, I don't like the word compromise, but I suppose in this case it's a relative, to compromise, as in accept some things that aren't so great to get the majority of the things I want. Because like I said, I've looked in some places and they haven't even got a washer dryer. There's one place that was just like a room with an ensuite, which is no good to me. I don't want to share a kitchen. I'm no good sharing stuff. Really need my own space. So I have got a really nice, like providing it all works out okay, which I won't know till the beginning of the year. So I am talking about a bit provisionally. I have put a deposit down on the place, like a holding deposit. Providing it all works out, will be moving in the new year. So, it's very good that I have got somewhere. It's a load off my mind. I mean, I was getting to the point of like obsessively looking at other places, which you have to do when you're put in a position like this where like you could end up on the streets. It's kind of a bit of life and death scenario, really. I don't know if you've studied Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but basically like shelter, like a roof over your head, is one of the basic needs of any human being. And so to have that basic need under threat is of course going to be really anxiety inducing. overall, I'd say I've coped quite well, and I'm quite calm and reasonable and rational considering the amount of stress and pressure I'm actually under at the moment to get out of here and to shift myself, you know? Slendermorph 1. Yeah, you need Ruth. Lots of love to you. Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Yeah, so, where it's a very anxiety inducing time when you're faced with homelessness. It's the first time I've ever been properly ever faced with that. Well, the first time that I can ever remember being faced. I mean, obviously, in my mind at some point, I have thought, oh, what if I ever lose this place? But obviously the reality is now it's happening that I could, like, be on the streets, which is I don't wanna be. So I'm doing everything I can to secure another place. Like I said, I've paid a deposit now, so this is a very good thing. So when we're anxiety induced, we have to try and also look at the positives in the situation and look at what happens if we don't shift our butts and do stuff we've got to do, even though it's anxiety inducing. Like, what is the alternative? It's like the pain of staying here and becoming homeless is a lot worse than the pain of actually getting rid of stuff and moving. I don't like the fact I've got to get rid of a lot of stuff to move because I'm being forced to do it. Well, forced to move. But it's better that than ending up on the streets. And I have got a really, if all works out well, it's a beautiful apartment, basically. It's a masonette, it's on 2 floors, it's very cozy. Really lovely. I really like it. So I'm gonna be like enjoying myself and happy there. And so it's just a lot of upheaval and stress to get there and get in there because I've never been single and had to move. So when I moved in here, I was actually had a partner at the time, and I moved in here because we separated. And we split up. But then unfortunately I got back with him. I shouldn't have got back with him, but it happened. But when I came here, I came because yeah, to get away basically and have my own place. And so I've lived here since I split up, well, since he split up with me in 2011. Well, I was here before then because that's the last time we split up. We were living together and then we split up for 6 months and then we got back together. And the last time I was with him was 2011, so that's like 11 years ago now. Um, but yeah, it's kind of like weird. But I think it'll be good for me to have like a new environment, to have a lot of the stuff gone from my past. I think logically it will be very healthy for me. I will literally be living a teenager lifestyle much more there, really, because I'm going to be having a lot less objects and a lot less things around me. So it will be much more like a student pad type setup, which I quite like the idea of that. Um, I love student accommodation, it's so good. And so there is a lot of benefits. And I think, when you're anxiety induced, it's kind of like hard to see benefits and positives unless you purposely go looking for them. And I've trained my brain to look for positive stuff in difficult situations. I've trained my brain to see not just the glass half full, but a glass overflowing. In other words, I'm very positive, even though things are really tough. Like, I do believe things are going to work out for the best. I do believe that I will be settled eventually. I do believe I'll be happy there. I can't stay there indefinitely, though. So, this is the other thing, which is a little bit anxiety inducing as well, because the guy who owns a property, who the letting agency uh, the letting agency runs the flat for him, basically manages the flat for him. He said that he's 80 years old and that he told the letting agency, basically, who told me this, that he's 80 years old. He doesn't want to tie himself into a 12-month contract, so can only have a 6-month. So I can only stay indefinitely there for 6 months. And that'll be a rolling 1-month contract. So I might have to leave then and then get another place. So it is unsettling. It's not like I can go somewhere and know that I've got complete peace of mind that I'm going to be there for some time. I might have to move again in 6 months. But the most important thing at the moment is I get somewhere that I really like, and because I have to leave here and I can't be homeless. So, and I need something that matches my needs because I've got disabilities, which this flat, well, masonette will do. It's called a flat, but it's actually a masonette because it's on 2 floors, but it's called flat. Um, and so, that was a bit disconcerting before the personal letting agency offered me the flat. But they did say, just to let the guy says he's 80 years old. Basically, he doesn't want to be tied into a 12-month contract, so he can only do 6. After that'll be a 1-month rolling contract, because basically he could end up going to a nursing home or dying or something like that. Because I said, "Oh, is he going to sell?" Because I thought he might obviously sell, because obviously the guy here is selling. Because the guy, he doesn't live here, my landlord, he lives in Spain. But the whole point of why he wants to sell is because he wants the money so he can retire, on his because he's businesses that he's had, he said, have not worked out. They've gone bankrupt because of the economy. So he wants to sell this so he can um buy a better place in Spain, from what I understand, with his partner over there. So that's why he wants to sell this place. He's selling it to his son. His son used to live in this room, in this used to be his bedroom when he lived at home with his dad, which is now a flat, but it wasn't a flat before when he lived in it years ago. But he's going to be changing it down and knocking down things. He's going to knock through the kitchen, so it's not going to be the same anymore. I think one of the kids is going to have this. What his son said to me the other day. So I'm glad it's going to a good home, as in the sense that the original kind of person who was in his getting it back. But it's kind of really hard because obviously it's been my own home for years. So it is going to be upsetting, I think, to leave. But I've just got to look at the positives, that it's a new horizon, it's a new start in life, but just that I might have to move again. So all this I'm doing now, I might have to do again in 6 months' time. Well, it'd be 8 months, because actually it could be 6. So basically, I'm only guaranteed the other place for 6 months, and the landlord there would have to give me 2 months' notice. I don't think he can give it me till after the full 6 months is up. So I think I'll be there 8 months potentially. But that might not happen. I might end up staying there longer, because the letting agency is like, well, he might live for another 10 years, and he might not. Well, she didn't say about selling. It was my thing that I said he might sell. But she said, "Oh, he might live for another 10 years, in which case I'll be there for another 10 years, basically, unless I find anywhere that I prefer to move to." But it is very expensive in terms of like the bills on top. But it's a very good price for the fact it's a masonette on 2 floors and very cozy for the facilities. Um, and so yeah, so I am in a way, I think it's good that I'm just getting a 6-month contract, and I think that's a positive, in the sense that if I don't like it there, for example, if it's not what I think it is, if it ends up being really noisy, and if I feel that I really can't cope with the fact it's so small, and maybe there's better rental properties out there for cheaper amount of money or something, then it gives me opportunity to be able to move myself again. The good thing about, if I got to get rid of, well, rather than if, the good thing about the fact I've got to get rid of a lot of stuff in this place means that if I do have to move again in like 8 months' time, then obviously I'd already have a lot of stuff gone. So it'd be easier to move again, because I'd have less stuff to move and get rid of. So there is a bonus doing that now, but it's just very disconcerting when it's like I'm leaving one place because he's selling up, and in 6 months' time, the other place where I'm going could end up selling up. So, it is a bit anxiety inducing, because it's like, oh right, okay, so I basically got 6 months there, and then I don't know what the hell's happening to me again. Well, he'd have to give notice if he, for me to get out again. But it's kind of like, I don't really want this all over again. But again, I might not have any choice, unless I decide after 6 months that I found somewhere better and I want to move out, which might be a good idea, because it might be a bit more permanent if I moved somewhere else. But I think I'll really like it there and want to stay there, because the area is really nice. I mean, it's so central. I can literally go to the club and just walk home. I don't have to pay for taxis. It's like in the lower part of the city. So yeah. And the shops are just like a 5 minutes walk. I mean, I go out and the city centre, I literally walk up the steps, up the road, and that's into the city centre. Well, walk up the steps and then either turn left or carry on going up and then turn left again. Whichever way, basically. It's basically a left and a left to 2 different places in the city centre. So yeah. So there are a lot of benefits to the new place. It'll be easier to get to all my clubs and favorite entertainment places, because I walk there usually. But then I still need to come to the supermarket down where I live near here because they do the cereals because I've got special dietary requirements. And so the Sainsbury's in my city that I'll be living really close to, that doesn't do the cereal I need. And there's only one cereal I can have because of all my allergies. So I have to still come down this end anyway with my shopping trolley to do shopping for some items that I can't get there. So um slender more font. Oh, there's another picture. Have you got two profiles? Because you've got two pictures. You go clubbing often. I want to go clubbing more often. So I haven't been clubbing for like over a month now. Um, Ideally in the past I used to want to go once a month, but when I live near the city, I want to be going really, I'd love to go once a week. That would be my ideal scenario, that I could go every Tuesday night to Timepiece, which is my favorite club, or every other week at least, really, or 3 times a month, maybe have a break for 1 week. But yes, I love clubbing. I mean, I am really happy as well that I'm staying in Exeter if I get the place. I say if because what happened was one of my housemates, he's got to move out as well. So in this house where I live in a flat in a big house, and the landlord's selling the whole house, so my flat's being sold as well within it. Everything's being sold. And his son's buying it but wants vacant possession, and which means we've all got to get out. Two of the tenants have left anyway. It's just me and a guy. But the guy, he had a place lined up, and the referencing was happening, and it's basically he got declined in the referencing process. So he was all set to move, and now got to look for somewhere else because it fell through. So I'm very cautious about that. And I can't say that I've got this place for definite because I haven't until the referencings come back, and I've actually got a tenancy agreement, which is not going to happen until the new year. And then if something, heaven forbid, wasn't right with that, I'd have another month, just one more month left to find somewhere else and get the heck out of here. But hopefully, I can't foresee any problems with the referencing because I've made sure that the place I'm moving to is just within my budget in terms of monthly rental that letting agencies will allow. Um, so it's just under the amount that I could actually be having because it's up to the letting agency. It's not up to me how much I rent. They have certain rules, and that just falls within their rules. So, and they've already contacted my landlord because I gave him a heads up and said, like, I'm at the referencing stage. I put holding deposit down on a flat that I really like. Um, and so, and he's been contacted and he's filled the stuff in, but they probably want a lot more stuff from me, and they haven't actually directly contacted me yet because the letting agency does referencing with another agency. So you've got the landlord who hires this letting agency to work on his behalf and manage the property, and then this letting agency hires another agency or company to actually do the referencing. So there's like 3 people involved in this situation already, and me, 4 parties really. So there's quite a lot of things. And the referencing can take up to 15 days, like 2 weeks, but obviously we've got the Christmas break and New Year period. So it's kind of like weird. And I'm paying 6 months rent in advance, by the way. Luckily I saved that up. And that helped to clinch the deal because I'm on benefits, disability benefits these days. So it's very hard to get a place when you're on benefits. Not a lot of places will take you. Um, and that's paying 6 months of rent out is a lot of money, and I'm paying the deposit as well on top of that, which is over a month's rent. So, that's a lot, but, I'm willing to do that because I need to find somewhere nice, and that is a really nice place. I think I'll be safe there as well because it's got, like, a security thing, like, where if someone was to visit, for example, they got a phone up by intercom, like, through the phone line to say, "Can I come up and buzz you up?" And so I think it's quite safe. There's 3 flats in the whole house besides me to the place I'm moving. That's kind of a bit like here in the sense of, like, 3 sets of tenants here. But the setup here is a bit weird in the sense that you walk through someone's house to get to the flat, whereas there is just separate flats, and you all use the same hallway and have individual flats. In this house, there's people that, one tenant's got the floor that I'm on. 2 rooms, one for him and one for his sons that stay over, and then the kitchen and lounge downstairs. So it's like when I go through the hallway, it's like I'm going through his home. Um, so that's a bit strange, but I've got used to it because I've been here years. But there are many benefits to the new place, and I specifically like focus on the positives and benefits. And when you've got anxiety, the brain automatically tries to force you to panic and to overwhelm you, because we are designed as human beings to protect ourselves. And so anxiety is a protection mechanism, which is good. It's good to have protection mechanisms. It helps you to be aware of danger and stuff, genuine danger, but also it can make you like overcompensate and feel overwhelmed. However, the situation that I've been put in recently, that I'm in, is one that anyone would find difficult to cope with, let alone someone with an anxiety condition, because moving home is one of the most stressful things you can ever do in your entire life. Dealing with death is one of the most stressful things you can ever do. And I've got to deal with both at the moment. The death of Angel, my beautiful girl guinea pig, who is on this picture of her is on this cushion. She's no longer with me anymore. And then moving all at once, basically. And so that's really, really tough. And so I think as a person with anxiety, you've got to understand and to be kind to yourself and cut yourself some slack. Send them all one, rest in peace. Thank you. Lots of love. Yeah. Um, so I think you have to be very kind to yourself when you have anxiety. You have to understand that it's perfectly natural and normal to feel overwhelmed when you've got to move, when you're put in a position where you're grieving, where you are under very stressful, serious circumstances, and when you're faced with adversity, and when you're faced with really kind of like life threatening stuff, as in not as in like, oh, I'm gonna be like killed. Life threatening as in, if you go on the streets you could die of pneumonia, which is how my guinea pig died, actually. So obviously, like it's kind of like a matter of life and death, in the sense that if I did go on the streets I could end up dead a lot more easily, which I don't want to be in that position. So it is kind of a bit like, naturally you're going to get a bit more panicky with circumstances like that. Anyone would be worried about stuff like that. But I've been trying to remain as calm as possible and positive and say, look, you are going to get through this. You're going to find a solution to this. And like I said, the most important thing is to remain solution focused, because if you want to focus on the problem, it just goes round and round in your head. It's not helpful. So it's always good to ask yourself, like, how can I do this? So for example, like, okay, like, how can I maximize the storage in the new place so I can move more stuff over than I think I can move over? How can I get rid of stuff quickly if it comes to the fact that I've got like a few days to move and I haven't got rid of much stuff yet? Like, what can I do? So for example, I can give stuff to charity shops. I can get a house clearance company to come and clear the rest of the stuff. Obviously, I could like hire a skip maybe, these types of things. So it's good to be very, very solution focused. In the new place, when I get the keys, I'm going to be measuring up and seeing what furniture I need to buy, if there's some stuff I can buy, if there's things I can fit in to maximize the space and build upwards, because it is very, very small. She did warn me multiple times it's very small. Um, and cozy. I like it cozy. Um, but you've got to be prepared to like realize that life is going to change, and when it's forced upon you, it's really not nice, but you've kind of got to go with the flow as well, as much as possible, because the more you resist it, the worse it's going to be, because you're resisting something that's going to happen anyway. And so it's kind of like you're pushing against something that's gonna happen, whether you like it or not. And the more you resist it, the more it's going to feel awkward and like it's pushing back at you. So it's better as much as possible to kind of like surrender to the universe and say, okay, whatever you've got for me planned, clearly you've got something good and amazing for me planned. Otherwise, you wouldn't change my life in this way so dramatically and drastically. And so I think it's important to acknowledge the fact that I'm being forced to grow in my life, which is going to be a really good thing. And I'm being forced to change, which obviously the universe believes change needs to happen to me, because I've been stagnant or stuck in certain cycles or things in my life for too long, clearly. And this is what the universe is saying. You've got to shift your butt, girl. And so, try to remain as positive as possible and try to just also talk to friends if you've got it. I have really good, amazing friends and they're super supportive, and that's really helped ground me. So in therapy, if you do therapy, they'll teach you grounding techniques, which is like, like say how many, it's like say like 5 things you see in the room, say like 4 things you hear, and 3 things you smell, and 2 things you touch, and these type of things. That's like grounding technique. But or something similar to that. But for me personally, that's not really that helpful, because it's like I know I'm here in the present. I'm quite aware that I'm here and it's a present moment, um but the present moment's very anxiety inducing, you know? So in some ways, in this type of scenario, it's actually better that I think in the future and I put myself in the position of, right, okay, you've moved. You're feeling really great. You've moved now. You're really settled. You love your new place. Everything's happy. The house is great. Everything is amazing. The location's spectacular. You can go clubbing more. You can go much more easily to entertainment. You got supermarket on your doorstep, which is closer. And well, that particular supermarket's closer, but I've got a one across the road from here as well. So so it's good to focus on the positive scenario and outcome that you will achieve after all the upheaval and stress is over. So in this case, it's actually better to project your favorite ideal scenario in the future and try and put your mind in that frame of state so that you feel more euphoric and happy about this blissful life you're going to have in the future when you envisage it. And you need to envisage a compelling future for yourself, a happy future, a good future, because then you'll want to go towards it. Then you'll want to change. It'll be a lot easier for me to leave here when I'm thinking, right, okay, this place is falling to bits, to be honest with you. And I need to get out of here, and it'll be better for me to move. Unfortunately, the other place is very old as well. And it's not perfect, which I was warned about. And there's like, for example, there's a latch in the toilet in the place I'm moving to that doesn't work, and they're not going to fix it. They've made that clear, because I guess the landlord is a bit like the landlord here. He's older and he doesn't want to fix too much stuff in case something happens to him, and it's going to cost him a lot of money. And yes, landlords are supposed to repair things. That's even in the contract I'm going to be signing, but they've already told me beforehand that they're not going to do anything with that. So I have to take it as seen at the time, because that's their stipulation. And obviously, as I don't have loads of places to move to, and that's like a minor thing to me, then I'm going to still move there. Providing the references and everything come back. Referencing, it's called. So it's not just a reference from my landlord, it's referencing. They have to do credit score checks, and I think they got to check bank statements and all benefits offers and all this type of thing. Um, so yeah, they look up your national insurance number and all that type of thing. So yeah, I think it's really important to focus on the positive, focus on the good outcome. So this is a time where if you feel really anxiety induced in the moment, you kind of slow things down and think, hang on a minute, I'm not moving out this instant, this day, so I can actually chill out for a little bit. And also, it's gonna be for my best interest to move, and everything's going to work out well. And if you envisage like a compelling future, one that's really happy in your new home, then it'll actually make you want to move out quicker and want to get rid of things. So I highly recommend doing that, to focus on the positive, focus on the better life you're going to have once you're moved, and focus on like your where focus goes, energy flows. And basically that's what happens and creates emotions in you. So if I feel like, oh, I'm going to a better place, a place that will be better for me right now, and I'm going to be happy, maybe even happier there, and it's going to be really good to declutter and get rid of a lot of stuff. It'll be less to manage, less to hoover, less to clean, less to worry about in the future, and it's going to like remove a lot of negative energies from my past. It's going to be really healthy and good. If I focus on all this type of stuff, then it does make me feel better. But I am feeling dizzy even as I'm talking to you about this, because the stress does make me feel dizzy. And so I do feel really stressed now about everything that's going on, because I do feel overwhelmed, because it's like a lot's gone on and going on all at once. And so sometimes in this scenario, it is sometimes best just to chill out, maybe watch a movie for some time, or maybe just like purposely calm down and say, okay, I'm just going to relax. I'm just going to relax. I'm just going to calm down. And if you got supportive friends, obviously talk to them, talk through the fears and worries you have. Um, one of my friends is going to be helping me to move, so that's going to be really good. I've confirmed it with them tonight, so that's helpful. Because it's good to confirm in advance what support you're going to have. The more support you can get is going to be good, because this friend knows me in an emotional way, because they're one of my best friends and they know me practically, so they'll be able to offer some support with both of those things as well. Now they have anxiety in themselves, so it's going to be difficult for them because they are very similar to me. And although they're not the ones moving, they will be experiencing some of the same emotions with me, because they will be moving with me and they've known me in this home for a long time and they used to seeing me here. And so it's still going to be stressful and difficult for them even helping me. So I've got to be aware of that and to make sure that their mental health is going to be okay as well. So I think you've got a lot of stuff that I've told you now. So hopefully, if you've got anxiety and you're being forced to do something or be in a position you don't really want, but it's like you've got no choice, then hopefully these tips have helped you and can help you in the future. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to grab your copy of Asexual Perspectives on Amazon if you haven't already, and Fibromyalgia Self-Help Handbook. This has got tips, help, and advice if you've got anxiety. By the way, the Fibromyalgia Self-Help Handbook, whether you got fibromyalgia or not, it does help give you more energy and feel happier. So yeah, go and grab them. I'll see you soon on the next video live stream. Thumbs up. Oh, excuse me. I'll see you soon. Bye. Subscribe.